Offside, out of bounds. Welcome to Offside and Out of Bounds. I'm Junior. Thank you for joining us from Spotify, Apple, or the podcast platform of your choice. Here we are, day 4, breaking into the National League section of our 2021 MLB preview show. As we have been for the last 3 days, today and a couple more days to go, we're going to preview a division a day leading up to our live show on March 31st at 9 p.m., which can be found on YouTube at Offside and Out of Bounds, where you can join myself and my partner in crime at Offside Adam, where we're going to break down the league, talk about who we like, who we don't, and where we think everyone's going to round out in the divisions and take our eventual World Series champ. As the format has been up to this point, we're going to break down each team in the division, who they've added, who they lost, our concerns and where things can go wrong, what they need to do to stay competitive, who we're excited to watch, who we aren't excited to watch, and where we think they're going to finish. Let's go! Do you have a dorsal fin? To train the dolphin, you must think like the dolphin. You must get inside the dolphin's head. I'm saying to Snowflake, okay. And he is saying, okay. And he is up on the tail. And you can quote him. The Miami Marlins, 31-29 last year, and they lost in the NLDS to the Braves, and they are managed by Don Mattingly. Breaking this team down, they currently come in at number 24 on the preseason power rankings, and the Marlins are not the Marlins of old. They've gone through a huge youth movement, and they're not going to compete as much, but they will compete. You know, Derek Jeter is trying to do things the right way, and the ownership is definitely letting the captain do the things that he needs to do to make this team from the ground up competitive, you know, in the next 4 or 5 years. The additions they made this offseason is they brought in Ross Detweiler, Anthony Bass, Adam Duvall, Gio Gonzalez, and they did pick up a few more minor pieces in trades. The subtractions, you know, the only thing they didn't want to lose here was going to be Starling Marte. They did wrap that up, which is a good sign for them. You know, they did have a few guys leave to go play overseas, but, I mean, there wasn't really much there, and the team's pretty much coming intact for Don Mattingly this year. Our concerns, you know, we don't really have a lot of concerns for this team as the expectations are quite low coming in. So you don't really need to place too much on them as they are going to be in the basement. They're going to be competitive in a few games. We really don't see them kind of, you know, making too much of a headway in terms of, you know, racing the division. But when teams have low expectations, they tend to be a little more loose and they tend to play well. So, you know, our concerns, again, we don't really have any. You know, where things can go wrong. A lot of people aren't expecting much to go right for this team. You know, it's going to be a lot of growing pains and frustration from the fans, but I think after the pandemic, I'm sure they're willing to put up with a crappy team just so they can get to the ballpark, you know, have some nachos, drink a few cold pops, and, you know, just take in a live baseball game. What they need to stay competitive. You know, they pretty much need everyone to get bad at the same time in terms of all the other teams in the division. You know, but this team has played well. You know, there are no expectations on them. So maybe this young ragtag team can, you know, be the bad news bears and actually do some damage in the division. But it's most likely going to be a pretty steep regression here for this team. Players we're excited to watch. You know, with a roster that is boasting 16 rookies and 6 players with 1 year of experience on the 40-man roster, I'm kind of excited to see where this youth movement goes in Miami. You know, perhaps if I had to settle on someone, I'd look at John Birdie. You know, he's an MLB short 5'10" second baseman who is 31 years old, but he did have a bit of a flash in the pan last year. And yes, he is a 31-year-old who is still considered a rookie at the MLB level. Who I'm not excited to watch. I am not excited to watch Derek Jeter pacing back and forth, counting the numbers in the seats, wondering how many hot dogs and enchiladas the concession stand have sold. It's going to be an interesting year for him, so hopefully he doesn't lose his mind and, you know, pull out facial hair if he's got any. Where they're going to finish. I can't see this team replicating what they did last year and making the playoffs. There's too many teams in this division that's made a lot of improvements, and the potential of this division, they could have 2 to 3 teams in the wild card mix as well as a division winner. You know, I do have this team finishing in that 60 to 65 win mark.
You can't check me, boo. I'm fueled by sweet tea and peaches.
The Atlanta Braves, 35-25 last year, and lost in the NLCS to the eventual World Series champion Dodgers. breaking down this team, they are currently sitting in number 4 in the preseason power rankings. They were somewhat busy by adding a few necessary pieces to the pen and worked on getting this team healthy. The additions they brought in this year are Charlie Morton, Jake Lamb at third. They did re-sign and lock in Ozuna for another 4 years, and they did bring in super utility man and Jason Kipnis. Subtractions. Nick Markakis did retire after a pretty healthy career. They did lose most of their deadline pickups, like Felix Hernandez, Darren O'Day, Cole Hamels, Tyler Flowers, Josh Tomlin, Tommy Malone. Our concerns for this team, predominantly with this team, it's laden with talent, on pitching and on the hitting side. It's going to be health. They've got issues in the past, and it happens quite regularly. So keeping this team healthy for a long run should be number one concern for this management team. Where things can go wrong, again, it's health. It's pretty much the only thing that can derail this team. They're stout defensively. They have a widespread offense, and where there isn't that dependency on one guy to kind of carry the team, the load is shared offensively. So, health. If you start losing a couple of pieces, the offense can kind of take a bit of a hit, and then you lose an arm or two. Definitely things can get nasty pretty quickly. What they need to stay competitive. Again, I'm starting to sound like a broken record, but it's health. They need to stay healthy. Player we're excited to watch, that would be Christian Pache. Super rookie. He came out in the division series last year, played really well. I really like the IQ in this kid. He's got a great bat, great fielding percentage. Really looking forward to see what this guy's going to do this year. Who I'm not excited to watch. This is an exciting team, and I don't really have anything that I'm not excited about. I would say I won't be excited to watch this team if the injuries start piling up. The minors are thin, and they don't have a whole lot of superstars ready to step up in case of injury. But, who does? Where they're going to finish. The Braves will be right there in the mix for the division. I am liking them in that 90 to 95 win mark. It could be a bit higher if everyone's healthy and they get on a nice roll. And if there are any injuries, it could be a bit lower. So I think in that 90 to 95 range is where I'm going to expect them to finish. It's the Philadelphia Phillies. Hey, can someone grab me a napkin? I spilled whiz all over my pants. This is an absolute embarrassment. The Philadelphia Phillies, 28-32, and they did miss the playoffs last year. This team is sitting at a high 18 in the power rankings, and they've pretty much returned the exact same team that missed out on the playoffs last year. The additions they brought in over the offseason were Jose Alvarado, Chase Anderson, Brad Miller, and they did make a few minor trades, landing a few minor pieces. Subtractions, the biggest notable most would be Jake Arrieta. Our concerns for this team, pitching is going to be the biggest eyesore for the Phillies. This is a huge potential for this fan base to relive the 1993 March when Joe Carter took Mitch Williams deep into the moon. But this is going to happen on an everyday basis, not in the World Series. Rolling out a starting five of Aaron Nola, Zach Wheeler, Zach Elfin, who is injured right now, Matt Moore, who hasn't pitched well since leaving the third world confines of the Trop, and Chase Anderson in the 5-hole. It doesn't scream a staff that's going to handle the offense that has been built up in this division. Everyone got better except for the Marlins and, unfortunately, the Phillies. Where things can go wrong. Where they always do. Not closing out games. Not winning on the road. An offense that stalls out. You're either going to get a ton of runs or not. The Phillies are not equipped to win close games, and it's shown over the last few years, and it's going to continue to show. What they need to stay competitive. They need absolute max efforts out of their starting staff, including Nola. He's going to have to be a true ace. They're going to have to get something out of Wheeler and down the line, and in terms of quality starts and complete games. They're running a platoon of closers in Bradley, Neris, and Alvarado. The mid and long relief is decent, but it's prone to getting blown up. The offense is going to get carried by Harper, McCutchen, Realmuto, and they're going to carry that offense. And they're going to need to get something out of Hoskins, Gregorius, and Adam Haseley, which might be a bit of a tall order to ask, considering that Gregorius he's been traveling around the continental U.S. quite a bit playing baseball. But it's Didi, so you never know what you're going to get out of Didi. Player we're most excited to watch. I am excited to watch the hype that has been surrounding Alec Bohm. Hoping he can live up to it and really make a difference at third base. I think if he can get raking and get that bat going, he can definitely help carry that load. Who I'm not excited to watch. I'm not excited to watch this pitching staff. They don't do a whole lot for me, and if this offense gets going, the issue where they're going to lose games is that their staff is just not going to close games out. They're going to allow guys to get back in the game. They're going to give up untimely home runs with guys on base, and it's going to turn the face of the game around. Where they're going to finish, this division got a lot better. Everyone in here, it's an arms race. And like I said, the only two teams that really didn't do much were the Phillies and the Marlins. Now, obviously, the Phillies do have, some decent talent here. It's just that pitching staff did not get addressed in the offseason the way it should have been. And unfortunately, I do see them coming in at in third or fourth. If they have a great year, they could get in third, which would potentially get them in that wild card race. But I'm thinking that they're probably going to be in the low to mid 80s in terms of win total. Are you absolutely crazy? Where do you get off telling me that the best team in New York is the Yankees? Get out of here. The New York Mets, 26-34 and missed the playoffs last year. Breaking down this team, they are currently coming in at number 5 in the preseason power rankings. They have definitely done a lot of work this offseason to turn themselves into a legitimate World Series threat. Those additions are Dellin Betances, Malik Smith, Guillermo Heredia, Trevor May, James McCann, Carlos Carrasco, Francisco Lindor, Sean Reed-Foley, Aaron Loop, Jordan Yamamoto, Albert Almora, Jonathan Villar, Taijuan Walker, and Superman himself, Kevin Pillar. Subtractions off this team: Robinson Cano, serving a suspension for substance abuse. Our concerns. Obviously, this team was very active, but there are a few things that pop up on first glance. Number one, they do not have a lot of depth at the catcher position. And some of the pitching depth that they signed, it's not really that good. And these guys haven't really amounted to much in their careers so far. And the Mets is not a place people normally go to resurrect their careers. In fact, up until now, it's been the exact opposite, where things can go wrong. It's the same thing every year with this team. Come on out and meet the Mets. Greet the Mets and greet them as you lose 2 arms to the disabled list for a long extended period of time. They don't have enough to back up those losses, and after the pitching staff implodes, it seems the offense does the same. But if we're wrong about everything, this team is in for one heck of a year. What they need to do to stay competitive: the Mets have to stop beating themselves first and foremost. Number 2, they have to stay healthy. If they're healthy and the offense is humming, they're going to put up a lot of crooked numbers and could be contending for a title. Player we're excited to watch. I'm most excited to see Dominic Smith. He's a great personality off the field, and I think he's been doing an amazing job reaching out to some of the older players to get advice on things in the hopes that he's going to be able to pass that down. That's an A+ in my books, and I'm definitely interested to see if any of the advice he was given during these talks will actually play off. Who I'm not excited to watch. I'm not excited to watch this pitching staff. As a Jays fan, pretty much half their staff is made up of ex-Blue Jays that found their way there via trade and free agency. Pillar's going to give them a max effort in the outfield, but we'll wait to see if he's still swinging like a farmer. Where they're going to finish. The Mets were built to compete, and if they stay healthy, mainly with DeGrom and the pitching staff, we see them right there in the high 90s for win totals. Well, how are you going to figure that out? We have to steal the Declaration of Independence. The Washington Nationals, 26-34 and missed the playoffs last year, breaking this team down. Currently sitting in the number 11 spot of the preseason power rankings. They've had a very busy offseason beefing up the offense. The additions: Josh Bell, Kyle Schwarber, Brad Hand, John Lester, Gerardo Parra, Alex Avila, Ryan Zimmerman. The subtractions: the smiling man himself, Howie Kendrick, has retired after a great career for him. Anibal Sanchez, Brock Holt, Kurt Suzuki, Michael Taylor, Adam Eaton, and Eric Thames, who has gone back overseas to Japan to play. Our concerns: they've invested a lot in free agency, and they've had a strong team that missed the playoffs last year. Health is obviously going to be a big issue, as they do have an aging pitching staff with Lester, who's 37, Scherzer, who's 36, and Strasburg, who's 32. If any of those starters go down, it's going to tax the bullpen quite a bit, and it's going to put this team into disarray, where things can go wrong. Health is a big thing, and if the offense isn't carried by Soto, Bell, Kieboom, Robles, they could be out of the race very, very quickly. What they need to do to stay competitive, they need to stay healthy, and they might have to look to the trade market for a proven arm, because they also do have an absolute logjam in the infield. So there are pieces there that can be moved should trading for another arm become a necessity. Player excited to watch. I'm excited to see what Josh Bell is going to do after getting out of the laugh factory in Pittsburgh. I think it's very important for his career to get out of there, and I'm looking for a big year out of him. Who I'm not excited to watch, John Lester. The pace of play is normally down when he's on the mound, and I'm fearful that his career ERA is going to take a massive hit this year with the park that he is in. Where they're going to finish, the Nationals are going to be right there battling for the crown with the Braves and the Mets. I see them in the high 90s, low 90s for win total, and more likely than not grabbing a wild card. The wrap. This is going to be a 3-horse race between the Nationals, the Braves, and the Mets. I see the Mets and the Braves coming down to the final days of the season to win that division. I do see the Braves coming away with it, with the Mets in second in a wild card spot, Nationals in third in a wild card spot, Phillies in fourth on the outside looking in, and Miami in the basement dreaming of Mai Tais, margaritas, and sunny beaches. But what we are hoping for is a nice season where everyone is safe and healthy and we can get back to some sense of normal. For everyone at Offside and Out of Bounds, I'm Junior, and this has been your NL East preview show. Check back tomorrow as we will be previewing the NL Central, and we will review each division leading up to opening day, where we'll culminate in our MLB preview show, which will be on YouTube at our channel at Offside and Out of Bounds on March 31st at 9 p.m. Check Spotify, iTunes, or the podcast platform of your choice at midnight for the full audio version of the show. Thanks for listening. Support local, stay safe, and see ya real soon. Thank you for joining us from Apple, Spotify, or the podcast platform of your choice.